Welcome into another edition of DFO DFS Report. It is Friday, February the 7th. Hope everyone's having a fine Friday afternoon. Zach and I are back after a one-day hiatus. Yesterday we are getting ready for the Four Nations Faceoff here at Daily Faceoff. So we're going to have the line combinations for all the teams, and that required some changes to the Daily Faceoff website, and that messed with a lot of the processes that I use to do the charts, and it was just a gong show yesterday. So charts were delayed, show was canceled. Sorry about that, but we're back. It's going to be our last show for a couple of weeks, Zach. We've got the Four Nations Face-Off coming up next week. And maybe if we decide to, maybe if there's, I don't even know if DraftKings has contests, but I mean, if they do, maybe we could try to do a little bit of content. If there's some Four Nation face-off slates, that'll be kind of fun. So many good players, it'll be wild. But Zach, let's not bury the lead here. You had a tremendous night in DFS last night. Congratulations, much better than me.
Thank you. Yeah, man, that was quite a night for me. I had a Florida 2 Tampa 1 stack with Convolvis in there, so managed to get him in there at the last minute, and just managed to squeak out a win in the $1.20 max last night. So pretty nice there at a score 172, and boy, it was a hell of a sweat, Brock. Like I was texting you about it last night because there was a huge wave of Colorado 1 behind me, and Netchess had that goal in the third period, and I was like, well, that's going to be it. I'm cooked. But it was assisted by Sam Malinsky and Parker Kelly. So nobody else on Colorado 1 got a point on it, and it was just enough to kind of hold everybody else off. So pretty happy with the win last night.
Yeah, you rarely see, or I feel like I rarely have a lead after the 7 o'clock games, and then it holds out throughout the rest of the night like that. It just was game after game after game. I thought I was going to have a massive night on Wednesday night. It looked like I was going to take down multiple contests. And then the third period of the LA Kings game just completely swept the rug out from underneath me. We could have had back-to-back takedowns. It would have been really nice for the show and really nice for the boys. But I didn't get it. You did. Congratulations. Let's get into it today. Again, if you want a chance at winning a $50 gift card to nationgear.ca, pick up some DFO swag, you can do so. All you got to do today is drop a comment in the live chat during the show. You'll be automatically entered into a draw that we will do at the end of the show. Just a heads up, though, Zach's got a bit of a hard out today, so we're going to try to cut this show a little bit shorter than normal. We're still going to do the live draw. We'll still do the hat trick pick challenge as well, but we will not have the daily face-off head-to-head lineup challenge tonight. So let's get into tonight's slate. Let's not waste too much time. Igor Shesterkin starts for the New York Rangers. It will be Alex Nedeljkovic for the short-handed Pittsburgh Penguins. Connor Hellebuck versus Ilya Sorokin, a red-hot goaltending duo there. You've got Peter Mrazek starting for the Chicago Blackhawks, projected to see UC Saros for the Nashville Predators. Stuart Skinner gets the nod for the Edmonton Oilers. Trent Miner projected to get the start for the Avs. Could be Mackenzie Blackwood. It would be the second half of back-to-back, so 2 games in a row. It'll also be 3 games in 4 nights. Based on the betting market this morning, I do think that the betting market is expecting to see Trent Miner. We've seen the Oilers up to like minus 190 this morning. It's bounced back a little bit, so maybe some leaks out there that it could be Mackenzie Blackwood again and some money pouring in on the Avs. We'll see how things shake out, but obviously would be a huge difference between Mackenzie Blackwood and Trent Miner, especially up against the Oilers. And then it'll be David Riddick getting the start. Darcy Kemper had a baby. Congratulations to Darcy Kemper and family. And it'll be Jake Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. So let's get into it. Let's just not bury the lead here. The New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins outrageously shorthanded tonight. No Sidney Crosby, no Evgeny Malkin. You kind of get a glimpse into the future of the Pittsburgh Penguins when their 2 big dogs eventually depart the NHL. It's rough. Pretty bleak here, not looking great for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but obviously with the injuries, with the shuffling lines, it does open up some value on this team. Obviously, Anthony Beauvillier moving up the lineup. You're going to see Kevin Hayes move up to the top power play unit. So there are some ways to take advantage of what looks like a pretty bleak situation here in Pittsburgh tonight. Let's get into it. We've got the New York Rangers as minus 201 favorites, 3.5 implied total, 2.4 implied total for the Pittsburgh Penguins, tied with the Islanders for the lowest on the slate. In terms of the matchups for this one, pretty good matchup still for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So as I mentioned, this is a Rangers team that by and large has not been great defensively. Things have looked a little bit better as of late, but still not great. 2.66 expected goals against per 60 at 5v5 lately. So matchup-wise, it's not too bad. for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's just whether or not you believe they've got enough talent to really take advantage of that. I'm a little bit hesitant. The matchup for New York 1, not ideal. The matchup for New York 2 looks really good. The problem is New York 2, as we mentioned the last game, just horrendous offensive metrics for Vincent Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere when they are away from Artemi Panarin. So some really good matchups in this game because both teams not great defensively, but are either side capable of taking advantage. I bet the under in this game as soon as Crosby was ruled out. I don't think there's going to be a ton of scoring in this game. I do think that the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to have a hard time generating a lot of offense here, but this third line still grades out really well. We've seen Tomasino and Kevin Hayes have really good chemistry together so far this season. Their underlying metrics are solid. Their matchup with the Rangers bottom six is pretty decent, especially this third line. So I don't mind maybe taking some shots at the value here that you could get from the Pittsburgh Penguins side of things, particularly Kevin Hayes and maybe Phil Tomasino in a mini stack. As I mentioned, you're going to see Hayes up to that top power play unit. So maybe a Hayes Carlson mini stack, something like that. I won't get too deep in the weeds here on the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I don't mind them for a little bit of salary relief. Pittsburgh 3, Kevin Hayes just $3,800. Tomasino $3,400. They're super cheap. What are you planning on doing with the Penguins? The top line still grades out second best, despite kind of underwhelming offensive metrics. The matchup is just super good for them, though.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see Pittsburgh 1 still grading out so well, but I'm not really a fan of this spot here, to be honest with you. It feels like without Sidney Crosby up there, it gets a little bit bleak pretty fast. Igor Shesterkin's also been really good against the Penguins in his career. 15 games played, 9 wins, 3 shutouts, a 194 goals against average, and a 929 save percentage. That's kind of the route that I think I'm going to be going here in this game. And I don't even know if I'm going to get to much, if any, Pittsburgh Penguins at all here. I do have some intrigue in that third line. I like the idea of, a Hayes Carlson mini stack or a Hayes Tomasino mini stack. Don't love to see Matt Nieto there because he's just kind of a bit of a black hole out there. So hammer your Matt Nieto anytime goals because
I will say Matt Nieto not a for sure thing there tonight. He's been a healthy scratch for 5 consecutive games, I believe. They did call up Emil Bemstrom from the AHL this morning, so it could be Bemstrom, who does have some offensive chops. That would be an actual, a decently nice offensive boost for them if that ends up being the case. But we have Nieto just because that was practice yesterday, but there are rumblings that it could be Bemstrom sliding in, which I think makes a lot more sense than Matt Nieto just sliding up to that third line. Going from a healthy scratch to third line doesn't make a lot of sense. They're not going to mess with that fourth line's had some success. So just to give you some line of sight, it might be Bemstrom, which again would help offensively a little bit. But continue, Zach. Sorry.
Perfect. No, that's great context because that would mean I'd have a little bit more interest in Pittsburgh 3 than before. So, we've seen Kevin Hayes have some success here as of late. His last 20 games, not seeing a whole lot of ice time, 14 minutes a night in all situations, scoring 1.3 goals per hour and taking 9.1 shots per hour of ice time. At $3,800, projecting for 4% ownership, I think he's a really solid value play here on this slate tonight. Also has had some success against the Rangers, 5 goals, 11 points in 21 games. The New York side of things, I think I'll probably get there a little bit on New York 1 here tonight. It seems like they're in an okay enough spot. They're still grading out pretty well. As the 9th best line to target here, but 16% ownership. I think that's a fair number right there. Obviously we're still kind of wait to see them really get some traction here. But there's been some good numbers there from that top line so far.
Yeah, they've been solid since the addition of JT Miller. We talked about it the other day. I was like, hey, I want to take advantage of this line while they're cheap. And the days of them being cheap are already gone. It didn't even last one more game. Panarin, $7,600, still pretty affordable. Miller up to 65. His advantage out up to 6,700. So 20,800 to full stack. That is the most expensive line on the entire slate. For some reason, Colorado 1's price went down. Martin Etchas down to 6,400. I believe he was $7,200 yesterday. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Maybe just a little bit more of a difficult matchup tonight with the Oilers. But yeah, interesting to see them down to 20,400. Really bizarre. McKinnon, especially at 8,400. I don't really know what happened with Colorado's pricing overnight, but yeah. So I think that because Colorado's so cheap, that probably increases my interest in them and decreases my interest in New York 1. I just think that Colorado's ceiling is so much better than New York, but I think it goes without saying, right? Like, this is not a good looking Pittsburgh Penguins lineup. Like, this is pretty bad. So I'm definitely still interested in New York without question. And I do think I might run it back a little bit here with New York too, just because that matchup is so good. Trocheck did score a goal in their last game. It did come on the power play though, but like both him and Lafreniere sub 6K. I probably will leave Riley Smith up. I don't know why he's up to 5K. Just that makes no sense. But this mini stack I still think makes a little bit of sense. I don't love the underlying metrics, obviously, but the matchup is super super juicy. They're going to see. This one here. They're going to see a lot of that Pittsburgh Penguin top line without Sidney Crosby. We know that line struggled defensively with Sidney Crosby. Rickard Rakell. I don't know when the last time he played center was, but it had to have been forever ago. So I'll probably get to them a little bit. Inexplicably, New York 3 was seeing some ownership the other day, and it worked. It's going to happen again tonight. I don't know if I can go back to it. Kreider scored a shorty. Brodzinski had an assist and a couple shots. I think he also hit the block bonus. I don't know why it worked, but it did. Are you planning on going back to any of the depth pieces of the Rangers tonight?
Probably not for me. I think, there's some reason to have a little bit of interest in New York too there, but this game, like you said, it feels a little bit gross to me here. I do obviously like the Rangers in this spot more than I like the Penguins, but I don't think I'm going to be bending over backwards to really get to any of these depth pieces in the Rangers. I'm not 20 maxing tonight. If I was, I probably would have 5-10% of some New York 2 and a little bit of New York 3 just to sprinkle them in there. I'll probably get to a little bit of New York 1 here in the lineups that I am building tonight, but it definitely won't be anything crazy.
Yeah, it's like I said, I bet the under here. Don't really love this spot. In terms of the power play, it's the 4th and 7th best power play advantages. Both PKs have been quite solid as of late. Pittsburgh Penguins 6th best penalty kill over their last 10. The Rangers are 14th best. Not great power play advantages on either side. Let's move on to the Winnipeg Jets and the New York Islanders. The Jets minus 184 home favors, 3.3 implied total, 2.4 tied for the lowest. The New York Islanders. In terms of the matchups for this one, kind of top to bottom, it starts to get worse as you go down the lineup here for the Jets. So that obviously bodes well for that top line. Decent matchup for the first and third line of the Islanders, but obviously really, really low implied total in this game. I believe the last time I checked, the under was like minus 120. Let me check. Minus 115, so minus 120 out there on under 5.5. So really not expecting a lot of goals here in this one with these two goaltenders going head to head. And I agree. I probably won't get to too much New York. The Jets obviously very good on home ice. Connor Hellebuyck just an absolute stallion. But offensively, the numbers are okay. I still feel like as low as the total is in this game, as low scoring as I'm expecting this game to be, I think mostly my interest just comes here on Winnipeg 1. I think that, whenever they're seeing kind of modest ownership, I don't mind getting to them. Ilya Sorokin's played super well as of late, but I don't mind getting to a little bit of Winnipeg 1, but I really don't know how much extra exposure I'm going to get to this game. Like New York 1 grades out 6th best, New York 2 11th best, Winnipeg 2, who knows? I can't see them here, 22nd. So not a whole lot of love from the charts here, but they are all drawing a modest amount of ownership. Top line for the Islanders is about 8%. Same thing for Winnipeg 2, New York 2 coming up a little bit lower owned, actually a lot lower owned at 1.9%. What's your plan with this game? I mean, that total, the goaltending matchup, it all kind of just screams hard fade for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really don't have a whole lot of interest here whatsoever. I think I'm going to get to a little bit of Winnipeg 1 here tonight. I think they might be the one to kind of target here in this game. And it kind of goes without saying, like we talk about Winnipeg 1 all the time. Their third best line to target on the slate here overall. They're only seeing about 12% ownership. The power play matchup is just otherworldly for them seemingly every night. Granted, the Islanders are a pretty disciplined team. They do not take a whole lot of penalties whatsoever, and their penalty kill has been pretty solid here as of late as well, grading out as the 7th best. But I mean, the Jets still have the best power play matchup on this slate here tonight. So I think there's a little bit of reason to kind of sprinkle them in. Definitely if you're 20 maxing for sure. I think for me, Gabe Vilardi looks like an excellent one-off option from that top line, projecting at just 5% ownership tonight. 1.4 goals per hour over his last 23.7 points per hour. Pretty much no shot volume to be seen there, but he does have 2 goals and 3 points in 3 career games going up against the Islanders. This does feel like an under game to me. I definitely agree with the market in this spot, and I've got a lot of interest in Hellebuyck and Sorokin. I think they're both really solid goaltending plays here on this slate tonight. That if the game as a whole, it kind of feels like a little bit of a coin flip to me. I mean, obviously, the Jets are pretty heavy favorites coming into this one, but it does feel like this is a low-scoring, one-goal game that maybe could go either way here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least just from a DFS standpoint, right? Like it feels like a fine pay up spot for Hellebuck at $8,100, and if it is going to be low scoring with the total as low as it is, it's not a terrible pay down spot here for Sorokin, who's been just red hot. You know, it wouldn't totally stun me if Sorokin stands on his head and the Islanders are able to win this game 2-1 or something like that. But yeah, I feel better about the Jets. I feel better about Hellebuck in this game, but I don't mind getting to Sorokin as a value option whatsoever. As you see here, $7,300 for him. And then, yeah, the power play, as you mentioned, top power play advantage for the Jets, number 10, worst overall for the New York Islanders. Let's move on to game number 3. You've got the Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators. I feel like these two teams just met. Am I mistaken? Like, wasn't like Nashville won like 100% own that night?
Yeah.
Let me see how wrong I am. Okay, yeah,
Feels like one recently.
it was January 16th, and the Predators won 3-2 in overtime. It was, or in a shootout, excuse me. It was in Chicago. I feel like they were just outrageously high owned. Yeah, Soderblom made 39 saves that night. Forsberg had a goal on 7 shots. Stamkos had a goal as well. Roman Josi assists 3 shots. So, yeah, going to be a lot of interest in this game for sure from the entire community. Let's just sort by ownership here. Nashville won, graded out as the number 2 line, excuse me, in terms of ownership. Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos. The Nashville Predators did shuffle their lineups a little bit yesterday. Joaquin Kemmel expected to make his NHL debut. They didn't say for sure if he was going to be with Svechkov and Novak or if he was going to be with Forsberg. He kind of swapped between the two lines. They listed him on the Forsberg line. So don't be totally shocked if he's with Svechkov and Novak and Marchessault is back up there in warmups. Just kind of keep that in mind. I don't think Kemmel is even on the slate, but Marchessault obviously is, and that would be a big change for him offensively. But Forsberg, Stamkos together, you're going to have O'Reilly, LaRue, and Nyquist together, Novak, Svechkov, and Marchessault potentially together. We love this third line always. They draw a pretty nice matchup tonight, but the best matchup overall is Nashville 1. So as I mentioned, they're the number 2 ranked in terms of own percentage tonight. The third line also garnering a healthy amount of ownership. Most of that coming through Marchessault, though. So Svechkov and Novak still low priced, low owned for the most part. And then Nashville 2, the really low owned option of the bunch, specifically Gustav Nyquist, but LaRue 4.4%. O'Reilly seeing a decent amount of ownership at 10%. You know, really good matchup here. Peter Mrazek getting the start for the Blackhawks, but we've said this a lot lately. It seems like the Blackhawks will just get blown off by like a middling team, and then all of a sudden, whenever they play somebody who gets like 30% ownership, their goalie stands on his head. And we know that the Predators have struggled a little bit away from Nashville so far this season. They've also been a little bit on the struggle bus as of late, it seems. They lost 5-2 to the Sens in their last game. Prior to that, they got shut out in Pittsburgh. So hasn't been great for them. They haven't scored more than 3 goals in 5 consecutive games. You know, this could be a remedy spot for them, obviously. How much interest do you have in Nashville? Because like obviously garnering a lot of ownership. This top line grades out 5th best. Forsberg, Stamkos, Josi is probably where the majority of my interest comes in. But obviously I'm still really interested in getting down to Novak and Svechkov as low owned options as well. As we mentioned, the matchup's pretty good for this entire roster tonight. And then, you know, that third line's just been super good together. And then if they do get Marchessault like it's projected, would provide even more of an offensive punch on that line. They would end up being still just $14,100. What are your thoughts here on the Predators tonight?
Yeah, Nashville looks like they're in a great spot here. I mean, I think it's worth mentioning too off the top, like Chicago's been seemingly playing better here as of late. Like it feels like their numbers have been fairly solid. You know, we've seen them keep some games pretty close here lately. You know, it's not tremendous numbers or anything like that, but it feels like it's been a little bit better than we've seen as of late from
And getting good
so,
goaltending.
yeah, and that's the big thing, right? Like they're getting really great goaltending. I mean, Soderblom was solid against the Edmonton Oilers the other night until kind of late in that game. You know, we've seen Peter Mrazek keep them in some tight games all season long here. So, you know, I do have interest in Nashville for sure. You know, count me in for some of that top line, Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos. I like the look of them. But man, for me, like this seems like a great Nashville 3 spot, honestly, on this slate. Early on in my builds here tonight, I'm finding myself getting to a ton of them so far. Tommy Novak and Fedor Svechkov have both been solid as of late. Svechkov, I mean, he's just been on an absolute heater. I mean, his last 20 games, 1.4 goals per hour of ice time, 2.4 points, 8.9 shots on goal. If they're getting a guy like Jonathan Marchessault down there on a line with them tonight, I mean, that just adds to their offensive abilities here. I really like this spot for Nashville 3. Probably my favorite of the 3 lines, if I'm being honest with you. But, it feels pretty easy to get to a mini stack on Nashville 1 of Stamkos and Forsberg as well. And, I probably got some interest in the Chicago top line as well. Connor Bedard has been finding his stride playing pond hockey out there on a regular basis. Ryan Donato bumped up there, solid value option, $3,600, seeing a ton of ownership tonight at 21%. And then, Landon Slaggert, I mean, a couple of games so far, had a goal or two so far as well here. So I don't mind this spot for Chicago 1 at all either, honestly. And the matchup score is great for them, 87.2. That's a pretty nice number, grading out as the 8th best line overall to target.
Yeah, I love Chicago 1 tonight. I actually played a decent amount of them against the Oilers the other night. They looked solid, especially a solid night from Ryan Donato in a chalky spot, and I don't mind getting back to that one bit. Just trying to pull up their actual numbers. Obviously, super, super small sample size. It's only 14 minutes, so about a game and a half, but really, really solid numbers. I'm not going to actually read them to you because, again, it's only 14 and a half minutes, but 6 expected goals for per 60. If you want to buy into the small sample size, they've been super good. And yeah, like they're just really, really cheap. Bedard's price coming back up is about $700, but really like Slaggert. I think he's got enough offensive game there at $3,500. Donato's a great play at $3,600. So I really like getting to Chicago 1. The rest of this lineup, I could care less, but yeah, Nashville 1, Chicago 1, Nashville 3 for me, definitely super interested. Nashville 2 does have really good offensive metrics. I don't know how much I'm going to get there, but they are like kind of the pivot spot if you want to get contrarian in deep tournaments. They look fine. Again, the matchup just kind of gets worse the way as you move down the lineup here. But Nashville 1, great spot. That being said, we've seen many a letdown spot in Chicago and from the Predators. I'm not totally... I wouldn't be totally shocked if the Blackhawks win this game. I actually bet them at like plus 170 this morning. And Peter Mrazek grades out extremely well at $70,000. He's like right in the middle of the pack. He's projected to see by far and away the most volume tonight, 34 shots against. So if he's able to put forth a decent performance and hold the Predators down, he's in a great leverage spot. And honestly, like, I don't hate Mrazek one bit. I think that this is a good spot for him. I think this is a good spot. I just wouldn't be totally shocked, I guess, one way or the other. Like if Nashville just runs all over them, wouldn't be shocked. But if Mrazek stands his head, puts a 40 save performance, and Chicago wins 3-2, like that is not out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion. There obviously, whenever we talk about Peter Mrazek, it usually only works out when Zach says he's got good metrics against the opposing team. He is 1-4 in his 1-4-1 in his last 6 with an 889 save percentage. So he doesn't come without his warts. He's definitely a risky play, but he's a great leverage option tonight. Zach, you seem to be the Mrazek whisperer for whatever reason. You got any juicy intel?
15 games played against Predators in his career. 10 wins, a shutout, a 248 goals against average, and a 919 save percentage, averaging 15.2 DraftKings points per game without any bonuses.
That, I think, classifies as juicy intel, if you ask me. One game against the Predators this season, stopped 31 of 34 shots in a losing effort in October. Wouldn't be surprised if we see similar volume from him tonight. On the power play, third best power play advantage of the night goes to the Nashville Predators, sixth best for the Blackhawks. Both power plays have been pretty solid as of late. The Blackhawks, aren't generating. Let me go. Where's this one here? They aren't generating a ton, but they're scoring at a ridiculous clip right now. So they are getting the job done on the power play and go up against a Predators PK that ranks 18th overall. So I think both these teams are firmly in play. I got a lot more interest in this game than I do the other two. It's funny because I'd probably much rather sit back and watch Winnipeg Islanders tonight, but from a DFS perspective, Chicago Nashville is an intriguing spot. Any final thoughts on this game before we get to your favorite game of the night?
No, let's move this one along. I'm getting a little tight on time, so.
All right, Edmonton hosts the Colorado Avalanche, 3.7 implied total for the Oilers, minus 177 home faves. The Avs, 2.8 implied total. So, Zach, obviously this game really hinges on the fact whether or not Trent Miner gets a start or Mackenzie Blackwood goes for the third time in 4 nights. If Miner starts, like, solid AHL numbers, but like he's just not Mackenzie Blackwood. So that would certainly open the door here for the Oilers. Now, the Oilers aren't really garnering a ton of ownership. Like, facing a team on a back-to-back at home, you'd think the Oilers would be super high owned. They're modestly owned. We're going to see them roll with McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines again tonight. What is your preferred method of targeting the Oilers this evening? Is it the top line? Is it the second line? Is it the power play? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, great question, man. I got interest in the Oilers here, of course, but I've also got a lot of interest in Colorado. I mean, it feels like these are, some exciting games between when these two teams meet up. Usually some high flying offense, and boy, are we seeing that from the Colorado Avalanche top line here. Marty Netchas has slid in and looked absolutely tremendous, playing there up on that top line with Nathan McKinnon and Arturi Lehkonen. And again, it looks like they're in a great spot here tonight. The matchup score may not be the strongest or anything like that, but McKinnon's always had success against the Oilers. 27 games played, 10 goals, 31 points. The big thing for me with McKinnon right now, his shot volume is really increasing, right? Up to 10.7 shots on goal per hour over his last 20. And those are numbers that we've seen from him in the past. So that's really encouraging, I think, just from McKinnon's perspective as well. Arturi Lehkonen continuing to shoot the lights out, 1.8 goals per hour over his last 20 games played, shooting 26.7% over that time versus 23 on the season. So, he's a guy who's always a threat to score. And then Martin Netchas, I mean, he's looked excellent. Like I said, really looking solid. Obviously, huge performance from him last night in Calgary. The metrics show that, like, historically teams on the second half of a back-to-back with travel typically only win about 43% of their time. So it's a tough spot here for Colorado for sure. Edmonton's going to have the fresher legs being here at home ice. But I like both sides of this game for sure. Interesting Oilers lines here as well, really trying to mix things up a little bit. GM Stan Bowman had an interesting interview with Pierre LeBrun earlier today, or got released earlier today, talking about, the way that they're kind of splitting up their lines right now. And they really want Ryan Nugent-Hopkins centering a line to see what the Oilers got running, 3 centers this way with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nuge on their own lines. Jeff Skinner playing some of his best hockey so far this season with the Oilers up there on that second line, really looking solid. Had a great game the other night, a goal and an assist against Chicago. So, in the same breath, you got that top line with McDavid and Hyman and Victor Arvidsson up there. Arvidsson's had some struggles as of late. He's not necessarily been putting up the points, but continuing to give a solid floor, 10.4 shots on goal per hour of ice time. I think for me, I'm leaning a little bit more towards this second line here tonight, specifically around Draisaitl and Skinner. Draisaitl's price also came down for some reason to like $8,500. I really don't understand what DraftKings is doing here. Maybe they just want to give me the opportunity to play McKinnon, Draisaitl, and McDavid in a line together, and I'm going to take advantage of that. So I like a lot of these spots here tonight. I think for the Oilers, I'm leaning a little bit more towards that second line than the top line right now.
It feels like DraftKings manually adjusts their salaries when they have big contests. Like last night, they had that 555 contest, and the prices were jacked up. Like Philip Heidel went up $1,500, and then the algorithm gets all confused and doesn't know what to do the next day, and then the prices just get completely out of whack. And that's what we've got here today, it seems. I have no insight if that's actually what happens. That's just my brain making things up, probably, but that's what I feel. But yeah, I agree. I have interest in both the top 2 lines for the Oilers, obviously. But I'm a little bit more interested in the second line. Same thing, Skinner, Draisaitl. McDavid's been, solid, but relatively quiet for his standards and his price tag, to be honest with you. It's just the $700 savings you get from Leon to McDavid is kind of like a no-brainer right now. It used to always be let's just force feed McDavid in your lineups, and now it feels like the opposite. It feels more like force feed Draisaitl in your lineups. He seems to have the better floor, seems to have the better ceiling. As soon as you start to doubt Connor McDavid, though, is when he really starts to flourish. So yeah, I don't necessarily, I really like a McDavid Hyman mini. Obviously, you get the power play correlation there as well. But some salary relief with Jeff Skinner playing on a line with Leon Draisaitl makes a ton of sense. He's got a big point to prove as well. So I prefer slightly that second line. In terms of the power play tonight, they do, not grade out very well. The Avs are pretty good on the penalty kill, fourth best over the last 10 games. Oilers PK struggling a little bit, but the Avs starting to figure it out on the power play a little bit. Still not amazing. 17th best over the last 10 games, but it's definitely perking up, which we've expected for months. It just finally is happening. Just going to pull up a number here that's probably going to blow your socks off. 35% of the ice time at 5v5 for Colorado 1. They just do not get off the ice. It's unbelievable. These underlying metrics are insane. The price tag inexplicably came down. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't love this matchup, obviously, but I just don't know if I can possibly get enough Colorado 1 tonight. Like, the price tag is just, it doesn't make any sense. It's too good.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like, I don't understand why they've dropped the price of these guys at all. It makes no sense to me. So they're giving us the opportunity to load up here, and I think it's a spot you kind of got to take advantage of. So for me, yeah, lots of interest in this Colorado 1 line.
Do you have any historical data in front of you on these two teams? Did you read any articles today about, are these high scoring games? Typically, they've met once earlier this year. The Oilers won 4-1 in November. The Oilers won 4-3 in January. Yeah, are these typically high scoring games? I mean, it's two high powered offenses. You got any intel?
I don't in front of me at this very moment. If you give me a second here as we move on, I can circle back on it though.
Here, I'll just pull up last year, see what they did last year too. I mean, yeah, all close games for the most part. Looks like the Oilers have got the better of them as of late. But you got a 5-1 game, a 6-2 game, a 3-2 game, and then obviously the games I just mentioned from this year. So not surprising to see some high event hockey here, 4-1 and 4-3 this year. So wouldn't be surprised. There's a couple of lower event games. Obviously, we talked about Pittsburgh, New York being lower event. We talked about the Islanders and the Jets being lower events. This game definitely could be the highest event by far of the night, and definitely going to want lots of exposure to it, especially given some lower price tags than we're used to seeing. Speaking of lower event, maybe not lower event, both these teams are pretty, can be fairly high event, but lower scoring just because they're solid defensively. Dallas and LA. I mean, you take a look at the, it is projecting as slightly lower paced, especially in comparison to the Blackhawks and the Oilers games, but decent matchup for the Kopitar line, decent matchup for the Danault line, not a great matchup for the second line of the Kings. But honestly, I'm going to just probably ignore that. And I just love this Kings second line. I played a bunch of them the other day. I just didn't play them in the right combinations, really. But they looked tremendous the other night. And they're really this team's top line right now. They're, on average, 29% of the 5v5 ice time. They're rolling Byfield, Laferriere, and Fiala out there with regularity, like in the third period in that close game the other night. This was a line that was coming out a lot more than the Kempe Kopitar line, and maybe it's because they were buzzing that night, but they just look so good. And they grade out the best. $14,300 is outrageously affordable. I don't know why Quentin Byfield's projected for just 1.4% ownership, but sign me up. Laferriere at $3,600 is going to be chalky again tonight. No problem going back to him. Fiala at $5,700 is a great price tag. Like at $14,300, this line looks spectacular. They, are kind of a rarity among the Kings, where I feel like they're separating themselves a little bit since moving Fiala and Laferriere with Byfield, just because unlike the other lines, like they actually have a floor. As a trio, they have a semblance of a floor, where the top line, I mean, Turcotte might play 11 minutes. Kopitar has no floor whatsoever. The same thing goes with the third line. Like, yes, Moore and Fogle have decent floors, but Danault has nothing to speak of. So you at least get somewhat of a floor here from LA2. The offensive upside is obviously there as well. I'm kind of planting my flag here. This is the best LA line, in my opinion. This is the one that I'm going to target with the Kings moving forward, as long as this trio is together. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Kings second line looked like they're in a great spot here tonight. Pretty low ownership across the board here on this slate, and I'm not necessarily in full agreement with it. I think all three of the Kings lines look like they're in fairly solid spots here overall tonight. So, I don't mind getting to LA2 here whatsoever. Alex Laferriere drawn the most ownership at 12.6%, $3,600. Him and Ryan Donato going to be very popular players here on this slate, and understandably so. Laferriere's shot volume has been great as of late, 9.8 shots on goal per hour over his last 20. Just absolutely snake bitten in terms of the offense. 0.2 goals per hour against 1.2 individual expected over the last 20, shooting 2.2% versus 12 on the season. So he's a guy who's absolutely due to break through with some offense here as well. Kevin Fiala, he's had success against Dallas in the past, 10 goals, 20 points in 28 games. And so is Kopitar. Always finds a way to be productive against the Stars. So I've got interest there for sure on the Kings side. But I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I feel like, the Dallas Stars are getting a little bit overlooked here tonight as well. Specifically this top line, who I think look like they're in a pretty solid spot. They aren't grading out the best at 21st overall here. But these three guys have all really done well against the Kings in their careers. Rupe Hintz, 12 games, 4 goals, 10 points. Jason Robertson, 9 games played, 5 goals and 13 points against the Kings. And even Logan Stankoven, 2 assists in 3 games played. So you're getting great shot volume from these three guys. They've been playing really solid hockey here together as of late. If you took a look at their line stats, 2.8 goals per hour as of late versus 3 expected. Just very consistently finding ways to produce offense. So I don't mind getting some Dallas one here as a real nice low owned pivot option on this slate tonight too.
Yeah, David Riddick getting the start helps the case there as well. They've got the best offensive metrics. They've also got the best matchup from the Dallas side of things. I agree. I'm not going to be super heavy on this game, but LA 2 from the Kings side of things, Dallas 1 from the Dallas side of things, is the route that I'm going to go. Zach, I know you've got a jet here. Do you got time to stick around for D and goalie really quick, or are you taking off?
I don't, Brock. I got to take off here, so I got an appointment that I got to get to. So my apologies. No. You're going to have to fly solo for the rest of the one today here.
No worries. Have a great rest of your day and have a great weekend.
And best of luck to everybody tonight. Hopefully you return tomorrow with more money in your bankroll than you had tonight.
Perfect. Stealing my thunder here. Have a good one.
Thanks, Brock.
The Dallas Stars do great out with the second best power play advantage tonight. As look at me, I'm in 2 boxes at once. Tough matchup overall. Second best penalty kill for the Kings, but still the 4th best power play has been really, really good. Thomas Harley obviously still up on that top power play unit. And how much is Thomas Harley tonight? I mean, we might as well. We're getting to the defenseman part of the show anyway. Harley is $4,900. Yeah, second best power play advantage. Number 1 power play quarterback there for the Stars. $4,900. Seems pretty good. Okay, let's take a look now at some of the other defensemen that look pretty good here tonight. Thomas Harley obviously grades out tremendously well at $4,900. So is Josh Morrissey at $53. Neil Pionk, his price tags come up a little bit from $3,200 to $3,900, but still grades out extremely, extremely well. Nick Blankenberg, always a guy that me and Zach like at $3K. Really like the value you get from him tonight in a great matchup with the Blackhawks. S. Lindell is just playing a ridiculous amount of minutes, probably going to see even more tonight with Ilya Labushkin out at $3,500. Vlasic's price tag, he hasn't done much recently, but he's all the way down to $3K, starting to make a little bit more sense. Josh Manson being out should elevate Sam Malinsky. He played more last night. He had a pretty solid night as well. Whenever he's been out of the lineup, that's Josh Manson. Malinsky's ice time goes up from like 13, 14 minutes night to like 15 minutes. And at $2,600 last night, he had 14.7 DraftKings points. Malinsky easily one of my favorite low-owned plays. Dylan Sandberg, price tag's coming up a little bit as well, but always a decent punt option. And Joel Edmondson, he had 4 shots on goal in the first period the other day. Never made it to the shot bonus, but at $2,800, given kind of the injuries and the ice time that he's getting right now for the Kings, I like Edmondson on the blue line as well. Okay, let's get to some goalies, then we'll get to today's draw and hat trick pick challenge. As we talked about earlier, Hellebuck and Sorokin obviously look pretty solid given their the low event nature or the low scoring nature of that game and just how good they are individually. Igor Shesterkin makes a ton of sense tonight. Not expect to see a ton of shot volume. In fact, the lowest of the night, but one of the highest implied win percentage of the night. And obviously that Pittsburgh Penguins lineup is super shallow and looks like they're going to have a hard time scoring goals tonight. So don't mind getting to Shesterkin as a pay up spot. I feel better about Shesterkin than I do UC Saros tonight. And same goes for Stuart Skinner. Jake Ottinger seems okay, but I'd rather just pay up the extra $200 to get to Hellebuck, in my opinion, or pay down a little bit. So probably mostly Hellebuck, Shesterkin, Mrazek, and Sorokin for me. If Blackwood ends up getting the start for the Avs, I don't hate that play. Don't know how much David Riddick I'm going to get to, but at $7,500, I think that price tag's okay and somebody definitely worth considering. Shannon says the Stars second line as well. Yeah, I like it. Like, they're fine. We've seen them kind of cool off a little bit. They have the worst matchup overall tonight too, which is part of the reason why I don't love them. We've definitely seen like Duchesne and company cool off, which was expected to happen eventually. But they do grade out the best of the bunch. They're only 12,900, which is super, super nice. So, they've struggled as of late, but given the fact that the price tag has dipped so much, yeah, they're a good value option to be sure. $3,900 for Marchman just getting back in lineup. Duchesne's dropped considerably down to 4,500. And same thing with Granlund now in Dallas. He's dropped down to 45. So yeah, I don't mind that play at all. If you want to save some salary, they're, quite a bit cheaper than Dallas won. So don't mind getting down to them whatsoever. I'm a little concerned about their upside and their floor overall, but they're not a bad play whatsoever in that game, in my opinion. Okay. Let's get to today's Hat Trick Pick Challenge. If you want to participate in today's Hat Trick Pick Challenge, you can do so by commenting a Hat Trick Pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. So wait for the video to end. Drop your Hat Trick Pick in the comment section. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. Hey, who knows? Maybe you'll win the $50 gift card tonight as well, and you can pair that for a $75 gift card to Nation Gear. So Zach left before giving us his hat trick pick. So I will go first. Obviously, I'm going to go with Philip Forsberg. This man has had 7 shots on goal in each of his 2 games against the Chicago Blackhawks so far this season. And then obviously the Blackhawks give up a ton of shot volume. So yeah, I really like his ability to not only hit the shot bonus tonight, but I like Philip Forsberg for a Hattie this evening. Let's get to today's draw. Here we go. So we got, 18 names in the draw. We've got a couple of winners, returning winners looking to win again. Here we go. Let's hit the spin. Who do we got? Are we going to get a repeat winner? Let's see. Oh! Cosmo Yiannopoulos. I hope I didn't completely butcher that, but congratulations, Cosmo, on the win. Boy, that was close. Todd couldn't have been any closer. So tough loss for Todd there. But Cosmo, congratulations on your $50 gift card to nationgear.ca. If you could reach out to me on X at Brock_Seguin or at DFO Fantasy, that would be great. I'll hook you up there. Or the easiest way is honestly to join the DFO DFS Discord. You can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube, and you can meet me in there, and we can hook you up with the $50 gift card. So congratulations, Cosmo. And yeah, if you want to join the DFO DFS Discord, the link is in the description of the video on YouTube. The community is growing every single day, and we drop all the late breaking news, whether there's lines or lineup changes, to make sure you're up to date on everything. And yeah, we're just chatting all day long, trying to help each other out, win some money. I've had some big hits overall lately. Congrats. Game 7 OT loss for Todd. Yeah, that was tough. It was right down to the wire there, man. I thought it was Todd for sure. And also, shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. You want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders NHL Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. And you can take everything you learned in today's show, put it in their optimizer, and build that optimal lineup for tonight. Just a heads up, obviously with the Four Nations Faceoff, we are gone. We will not be back for the next couple of weeks. So this is kind of so long for now. We will obviously be back. As I mentioned, if I don't know for sure if DraftKings is planning on doing any Four Nations stuff. If they are, we might pop on here and there to discuss the slate and maybe try to find some edges. Like, it's going to be hard to do charts and all that with the 2 games and just the lack of data, but we might be on here to chat a little bit if that's going to happen. I would imagine they're going to have interest in doing the Four Nations face-off on DK. So Zach and I could be back. It's not a foregone conclusion yet, but if not, we'll see you guys back here in a couple of weeks. Be safe. Have a great time. And yeah, if you want to chat DFS, overall, the Four Nations break, make sure you join that Discord. Thank you guys so much. Ooh, Super Bowl winner. That's a good one. So hard to bet against the Chiefs, man. I hope it's not, though. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I'd love to see, I don't really love that team, to be honest with you, but I'd love to see Saquon win a Super Bowl. I think Saquon deserves one. I like a lot of their players, to be honest with you, and the fatigue on the Chiefs is there. So I'm gonna go with the Eagles in. I believe it's an upset. I don't even know what the betting line is, to be honest. I haven't even looked yet. So best of luck. Hopefully you guys have good luck tonight. See you guys back here in a couple weeks, perhaps. Until then, cheers.